Trigger warning. Ghosts, ghouls, and gruesome stuff ahead. It's weird. It's dark. It's your kind of vibe. Welcome to Haunted and Homicidal, the podcast where true crime meets the paranormal. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Courtney. Every week we uncover the terrifying, the twisted, and the totally unexplainable. Lock your doors and grab your sage.
Because things are about to get haunted and homicidal. Hey guys.
What's up?
Welcome back to another week of stories.
You sounded so thrilled right now.
I'm tired and I don't understand because I had a very big 7 brew coffee and it's just not working today.
Because you've had too much coffee, so coffee has no effect on you anymore.
I haven't had coffee since, yesterday was the first time I've had coffee in 3 weeks. Yeah, remember last time we recorded, I was wearing the shirt, and I told you it'd been 2 weeks since I'd had coffee, and that's why I was wearing the shirt, because I had to feel connected.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yesterday was the first time in 3 weeks. 1, because I haven't been able to afford it.
Okay.
And 2, I just haven't gone. Anyway.
Anywho.
Check out HauntFest. Hey guys.
What's up?
We are going to talk to you about something called HauntFest. Super excited. We are partnering with them for all of their little events. So HauntFest is crawling back from the darkness, bringing more mayhem, monsters, and madness each year.
Step through the gates and into a fully immersive world of horror art, live music, spooky vendors, themed entertainment, and eerie activities lurking around every corner. Depending on the event, you may find axe throwing, trivia, animal encounters, rage rooms.
Ooh.
I need to do a rage room. Photo ops, food and drink, ghost stories, freak shows, hay rides, haunted attractions, and more. Some locations even feature camping, after-hour parties, and other exclusive surprises.
Our characters, awesome name by the way. That is so cute.
I know, right?
Roam the grounds hunting for fresh screams. If you're easily spooked, grab a Ghoul Gone Glow bracelet at the gate to help keep the beasts at bay. Which is cute. You know, people have autism and stuff and or kids are scared. I love that they do stuff like that.
My old roommate wanted one for when we went to Terror on the Coast.
Nice. So yeah, HauntFest, they're taking everybody into consideration. Pre-sale tickets start at a killer price. For the full nightmare experience, upgrade to the RIP Pass for exclusive perks. Season passes are now also available, granting access to any HauntFest event throughout the whole entire year.
Whether you're a thrill seeker, a horror fanatic, an Addams Family, or simply dead inside.
That's me.
Like Lauren. HauntFest is where Halloween never dies.
This is my jam.
Slip on your monster skins and join us for a weekend of scares, screams, and unforgettable memories.
Join HauntFest at the 2026 premiere of Death March at Trim Tab Brewing Company in Birmingham, Alabama. The thrills begin at 2 p.m. on March 7th and 8th, with the event ending at midnight on Saturday and 8 p.m. on Sunday.
And then HauntFest is back for its 4th annual Athens, Georgia event, April Ghouls, at Terrapin Beer Company on April 11th and 12th, 2026 at 2 p.m. Throw on a costume and boogie at our new Dead Man's Party from 10 p.m. to midnight on Saturday.
I'm loving all these names.
I know, right?
HauntFest returns to historic Hopkins Farm in Simpsonville, South Carolina for a September to Dismember on September 25th and 26th from 5 p.m. to midnight on Friday and 2 p.m. to midnight on Saturday. Hopkins Haunted Attraction will feature a sneak peek walkthrough haunt for the event, which will open at 7:30 p.m. each night and is included in your festival entry ticket. A September to Dismember will be a full-fledged weekend festival with vendors, live music, themed entertainment, and much more. Prepare for a dead man's party.
This November, join us for some post-Halloween thrills at the premiere of HauntFest Harvest of Horrors at Bobby Brown Park in Elberton, Georgia. The magic begins at 5 p.m. on the 6th and 2 p.m. on the 7th, continuing until the clock strikes midnight. Camping, yurts, movie screenings, bouncy houses, and more are offered at this venue. If you're a raging psychopath,
I am.
sign up to sleep in our Night Terrors camping area where our ghouls can creep around your tent after hours until 2 a.m. on Sunday morning.
That sounds so fun, guys.
To take a first look at the venue, come to our free On the Water Sink or Swim horror movie promo event on July 25th. For more information, to get involved, or to buy tickets, visit hauntfest.net.
Guys, do it. Okay, love you. Bye.
Do it.
Sounds like it's going to be a good time. I keep saying that every time. I'm jealous of anybody who gets to go. Budget.
We need to see pictures.
We do. Yeah, I want to know like firsthand experiences too, especially if you guys do like the characters on the camping stuff, because that seems like a super duper fun time.
You good over there?
I am tired. I don't understand what's happening. I mean, I didn't sleep like at all last night.
Why?
I kept getting fucking Charlie horses, man, in my feet, in my calves.
Eat more potassium
I
and stretch.
eat bananas. But it only happens like obviously like in it right when I'm getting ready to like fall asleep. It fucking wakes me up. I was very happy. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and jump into it today. I am going to talk about the kidnapping and murder of Angelica Ramirez. So there's like not a whole lot of information about her early years and like zero information about her mother. Not even her name. Unknown. She's like, She has a mom.
Yeah.
But none of the stories listed her name. The only person listed in here was her stepfather. It's fucking wild.
Okay.
So she was believed to have been born on or around January 21st of 1984. She was born in Hanford, California. She was 10 years old at the time of her disappearance, and she was the oldest child. I think there were 3 total. It was like her and 2 younger siblings, or her and 3 younger siblings. She lived in Hanford, California again, and she was in the 4th grade at the time of her disappearance. On the day she vanished, she had not attended school and instead had gone with the family to the Visalia swap meet where the family was operating a booth. Angelica was wearing her favorite shirt described in reports as a white, quote, Cool Cat t-shirt, and she was also wearing Mrs. Potts earrings from Beauty and the Beast.
Aww.
So, on March 3rd of 1994, Angelica was at the Visalia swap meet with family while her mother, whose name has not been publicly released in any source that I could find, and her stepfather, Francisco Tafoya, worked the vending booth. She had been assigned to keep an eye on her younger siblings while the adults worked. Law enforcement said Angelica was last seen around 10 a.m. walking away from the vending booth. She apparently walked away to use the restroom but never returned. Around 12:40 p.m., Angelica was reported missing by her mother, so 2.5 hours later.
Why would you wait that long?
I guess they just got busy working the booth. It was, there was a bunch of people there, and they probably just thought maybe she was out playing with her siblings, and maybe the siblings returned and she didn't, and then it was kind of like, I don't know. It does not give a whole lot of information. The case immediately raised fears of an abduction because she had vanished from a busy public place in broad daylight and had not simply turned up elsewhere in the sales yard, like at any point. After Angelica was reported missing, the Tulare County Sheriff's Department conducted a thorough search of the sales yard and surrounding area. Investigators used tracking dogs and also conducted an air search. A bedsheet taken from Angelica's home was used so the dogs could track her scent. The dogs followed Angelica's scent trail to the middle of the parking lot west of the sales yard where the scent was lost. So, typically that means she probably got put into a car.
Yeah.
Angelica had been wearing high-heeled shoes, and investigators found foot impression matching those shoes near the place where the scent trail ended. This was a major clue because it suggested Angelica likely made it to that area on foot and then, was taken from there by force and likely into a vehicle. Yeah. On March 5th of 1994, which was the very next day, 2 days later. So on March 5th, 1994, just 2 days after her disappearance, just before 9 a.m., A farm laborer reported seeing a body in a canal on Avenue 96, about 1 mile west of Road 96 in the Pixley area. The body, unfortunately, was identified as Angelica Ramirez.
No.
Authorities said Angelica had been strangled and sexually assaulted. Remember, she was 10.
The fact that these motherfuckers are freaking doing this shit to fucking children is some 10. Bullshit.
She had been missing for 2 days, again, before her body was found. The location where her body was recovered was rural and away from the swap meet, making it clear that she had been transported from the abduction site. So it wasn't like she walked there.
Yeah.
It is clear that she had been taken and left there. Even though Angelica's body had been submerged in water, investigators were able to recover DNA evidence from the crime scene and or body evidence connected to the killer. This was incredibly important because it meant the case had viable forensic evidence from the very beginning, even though the killer's identity remained unknown for decades.
You telling me they don't know who fucking did this shit?
They know now, but they didn't know then. Investigators believed early on that the person responsible may have had a history of similar predatory behavior. Lieutenant Joe Torres later said the way the crime was committed suggested that this was not likely the offender's first violent sex crime against a child. So they were saying this is probably something this person does frequently and just hasn't been caught yet.
Sick ass motherfucker.
Yep. Despite the available DNA, there was no immediate identification of the suspect because no direct database hit was found. So they put him in the system, nothing popped up. So that just meant if the detective was correct, this person had been committing these crimes and was never caught. There was no database, no nothing. So for years, detectives kept working the case, but the leads did not identify the killer. The sheriff's office later said the same DNA profile was submitted to the California Department of Justice CODIS system repeatedly over roughly 20 years, but there was still never a match.
The fuck?
20 years.
Oh my God.
In 1998, the FBI reviewed the case, revisited the crime scene evidence, and interviewed Angelica's mother as part of the effort to generate new leads. 4 years after that FBI review, the evidence was run through CODIS again, but there was still no match to identify the offender.
What the fuck?
The case remained unsolved, not because there was no evidence, but because the suspect's DNA was not in the law enforcement databases the investigators were searching at the time.
At that point, I'll just send that bitch to other cities, counties,
Other
shit,
states in the area.
and been like, yo, run this.
Something, yeah. So in 2018, the Tulare County Sheriff's Office featured Angelica's case in its Help Catch My Killer series, using an actor's voice to tell her story and revive public attention to the unsolved murder. 8 years ago, okay? In 2019, authorities released a Parabon Nanolabs snapshot composite image generated of the suspect's DNA. The genetic profile suggested the suspect was a man of Central American descent with light brown skin, dark hair, and dark eyes. Investigators also released age-progressed versions showing what the suspect may have looked like around the ages of 25, 50, and 75. These public appeals helped keep the case alive, though they still did not produce the breakthrough needed to identify the killer by name at that time. In 2021 and 2022, the investigation shifted towards forensic genealogy, a newer DNA method that compares crime scene DNA to family tree-style consumer DNA databases rather than only criminal offender databases. Beautiful. I fucking love the forensic genealogy because people willingly put their DNA on the internet now. Willingly. So even if they're not in the crime database, they're in a genealogy database. And so now they can use DNA collected from the crime scene and put it through a genealogy database and see if anything matches. Or if anything is like super similar, then they find that person and they can trace it back and trace it back and trace it back and find somebody, which is what happened here. So.
Still fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it is. I know. And unfortunately, like, they did what they could do. This dude was not in the database. Like, there was nothing they could do. So the FBI Forensic Genealogy Unit agreed to assist the Tulare County Sheriff's Office in 2022, just 4 years ago. Remember, this happened in 1984. So just 4 years ago. Investigators uploaded the suspect's DNA to GED Match, where they obtained a familial lead pointing to a man in the Los Angeles area. In April of 2022, exactly 4 years ago, detectives traveled to Los Angeles and collected DNA samples from relatives tied to that lead. By ruling out family members one by one, detectives narrowed the suspect list to one single person, Ramiro Villegas. June 30th to 2022, Tulare County Sheriff Mike Boudreaux announced that Angelica's killer had been identified as Ramiro Villegas. Investigators determined Villegas had ties to Tulare County at the time of the murder, including connections to an address in Tipton during the early 1990s. They also learned he had frequented the swap meets, including the Visalia swap meet during that time period. Family members interviewed by detectives reportedly said that Villegas had a history of molesting and sexually assaulting children in both the United States and Mexico, though these incidents had gone unreported to law enforcement at that time. And you've got to remember, especially in large families like that, unfortunately, it's kind of like a sweep it under the rug kind of thing, because it's an embarrassment to the family if a child is molested. I don't know why. I don't give a fuck who you are in my family. If you're fucking around and doing shit you're not supposed to do, I'm reporting you. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. But in those times, not that I get it, but that's kind of what it was.
Bullshit.
You know, you don't tell people about this. What happens in the house stays in the house. We don't believe in therapy. We don't need people knowing our business.
And this is why people need fucking therapy.
In 2026, it's not the same. Not as prominent as it used to be, but like during that time,
bullshit.
I think that's why these things were unreported, is just because the shame that went along with the report, the embarrassment, they didn't want to deal with it. Because if your 9-year-old was molested, where the fuck were you? Where were you while this was happening to your child?
Bullshit.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, them not reporting these incidents, even though the family were like, yeah, he was fucking around with kids in the States and in Mexico. Like, this is not news to us anyway. Him being unreported explained why his name never surfaced during the investigation, like initially, or even like until 2022. And why there had been no straightforward criminal trail pointing directly to him in Angelica's case. The sheriff's office said Villegas had prior contact with the criminal justice system starting in 1991, including arrests in California, but his DNA was never entered into the database in a way that would have matched Angelica's case sooner.
Bullshit.
He was sentenced to prison in 2002 and released in 2004, and then turned over to immigration authorities and deported to Mexico. California's more routine felony arrestee DNA collection practices came into effect around late 2004. So this was after he had already been, arrested, spent his 2 years in jail, released, and deported. So their DNA collection didn't start until after he was already out of the country.
Bullshit.
So again, this is why detectives believe his DNA never ended up in the system. Law enforcement said that if his DNA had been collected and entered into the system, Angelica's case probably would have been solved much sooner. By the time Villegas was identified, he was already dead. Detectives learned from relatives that he had died in Mexico in December of 2014 from complications of valley fever. So because of that, there was never an arrest, prosecution, or trial in Angelica's case once he was finally named, because he wasn't named until 2022 and he died in 2014. So he died 8 years prior to the identification. Like many long unsolved child murder cases, Angelica's case accumulated other possible leads and comparisons over the years before the final DNA identification. Public reporting from the 1990s indicates investigators explored whether Angelica's murder might be connected to other child murders in the area. But those lines of inquiry did not ultimately solve her case. They still couldn't pin the DNA on anybody, and the DNA they had on these other child murders was not
Yeah.
the same DNA. So they couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
The final publicly announced solution came through, again, the forensic genealogy, not through confession, eyewitness identification, or CODIS. It happened through a family tree. Once they identified the family, they talked to them, and they were like, yeah, I know he did it. He had a history of doing this. So Angelica's case is a stark example of how a child can be abducted from a crowded public space in a very short window of time, much like Adam Walsh. And again, people think, oh, we're in a crowded place. It's daylight. There's hundreds of people here. If something happens, someone will see something.
No.
Will they, though? A crowded public place is probably the best place to have your kids abducted because there is so much going on, because there are so many things to do and look at. People are not going to be paying attention. An uncrowded space, someone walking away with a kid that's kicking and screaming, you're going to notice that.
Yeah.
In a public space that has hundreds and hundreds of people talking loud, singing, doing whatever, making deals, you're not going to notice these little nuances that you would if there were less people there. It also shows how a case can remain unsolved for decades even when DNA exists, simply because the offender's profile is not in the right database. The eventual identification of Villegas through forensic genealogy demonstrates how modern DNA techniques have changed cold case work and allowed investigators to solve crimes that once seemed unsolvable. And I love it. Even though some of these cases we're not getting justice on because the people are dead, I love that they can now do this, because that means future cases are more likely to be solved.
Yeah.
You know? Even though Angelica's killer was identified, the case still ended without a trial, which means the public never got a courtroom accounting of exactly what happened to her in the time between her disappearance and the discovery of her body. So, because this man is dead, we're never going to find out the why.
Because he's a fucking pervert.
We're never going to find out, why did you choose her? Because she was with her other two siblings, so why was it her? Why wasn't it another child in the area? Why, did he know the family? Did he specifically target her? What was the reason? We're never going to have the answers, and there's hundreds of questions in this case, and we're never going to get the answers to them. Not that the public deserves the answers, because that's not our child, but her parents deserve answers. They do. And they're never going to be able to get them, and that is, it's just so fucking sad. Yeah. That one is rough, and I'm going to apologize because next Monday is also going to be really fucking rough and long.
Okay. So I have Hannah Graham.
Okay.
She was an 18-year-old second-year British-born American student at the University of Virginia who went missing on September 13th, 2014.
How do we always manage to do an abduction or a missing case at the same time?
No idea.
Okay.
She was born February 25th, 1996. Only a March, April, May, June, July, August. 7 months where I was.
Yeah.
In Reading, Berkshire, England. So I don't really have a lot of about her
Early years. Yeah. Okay.
So Hannah's friends last heard from her via text message at about 1:20 a.m. on September 13th, 2014.
Okay.
After she told them she was on her way to a party but was lost. She had attended another party before disappearing.
Okay.
According to surveillance footage and witness testimony, among the last places she was last seen was Tempo Restaurant with Jesse Leroy, or LJ, Matthew Jr., a 32-year-old man and a person of interest.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ugh, okay.
A witness also said that Matthew was seen in the restaurant holding an arm around Graham and that she looked drunk. The last witness to see Graham alive says that she was with a man who, quote, did not look friendly. As Graham was standing by a vehicle identified to be Matthew's orange 1998 Chrysler Sebring, the witness heard her say, "I'm not getting in that car with you." Over a decade earlier, Matthew was twice accused of sexual assault at two separate Virginia colleges.
Jesus.
Liberty,
what is he doing at the colleges? He started fucking too.
Liberty University in Lynchburg and Christopher Newport University in Newport News, and left each school immediately after each allegation.
Okay.
So he could have been a teacher or something. The reported assaults occurred within an 11-month period of each other. The police investigated each report, but in neither incident was a criminal case brought against him.
Of course not. Why would there be?
On July 7, 2021, Matthew was named in a class action lawsuit against Liberty University, alleging that he has sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl while at Liberty University.
Okay.
So on September 20th, a volunteer search for Graham took place throughout Charlottesville. Over 1,000 volunteers were reported to have been involved in the search.
That's a good amount, yeah.
On September 25th, Charlottesville Police Chief Timothy Longo said he believed that Graham was either in Charlottesville or in one of the surrounding 9 counties, and asked property owners to search for her on their own land.
Okay.
The Department of Emergency Management organized 2-person search teams in the search for Graham, and estimated that as of September 26th, those crews spent 44 hours in the field since the volunteer search.
Okay.
On October 18th, 2014, human remains were found in southern Albemarle County by searchers from the Chesterfield County Sheriff's Office. At a press conference later that day, Chief Longo stated that the remains had not been positively identified as Graham.
Yeah.
However, authorities informed Graham's parents of the discovery.
Oh, God. Can you imagine?
The remains were sent to the Chief Medical Examiner's office in Richmond for identification. On October 24th, the remains were positively identified as Graham.
Oh, so sad.
That same day, Graham's parents visited the property where she was found. On November 18th, the Washington Post reported that cause for Graham's death was determined but was withheld at the request of law enforcement.
So was she found on, like, private property or public property? Did it say? Because I know you said, like, people were asked to search their own property. So, like, when whoever found her, was it?
It just says they were found in Albemarle County by searchers.
Then probably public, I would think.
Yeah.
Because if it's private, they probably wouldn't have been able to be on the land. Okay. Yeah. I was just wondering, like, maybe private land, they would be, like, talking to the landowner. Be like, why is my daughter buried on your property?
Public.
Okay.
Later that day, the Albemarle County Police Department reversed course, releasing that Graham died of homicide by, in quote, undetermined etiology?
Spell it.
Etiology.
Etiology.
Okay.
Okay. She's like, yeah, that one.
Yeah. On September 19th, the local police identified a man they described as, quote, person of interest,
okay,
whom they saw on surveillance cameras leaving a bar with Graham. The police have concluded that Graham may have gotten into a car with this man. They also searched the man's car and apartment, but declined to arrest or identify him at that time. Because they want to make sure who it was.
Yeah, I mean, and that fucking makes sense. You don't want to jump the gun because it compromises the case. And you don't want to let them know, hey, we fucking know it's you, because then they could start destroying evidence. They could fucking run. They don't, I mean, I get the public outcry for wanting someone to be arrested and held accountable, but the police generally, because you know how I feel about this shit, the police generally have a plan.
Yeah.
They have the certain way that they have to do things in order for the prosecution to be able to collect the correct evidence and charge somebody with murder.
Jeez.
We all want answers. And sometimes detectives fuck it up. And you know how they would have fucked it up? By arresting this man ahead of time.
Bullshit. The police identified the, quote, person of interest as Matthew the following day in an effort to make contact with him for further questioning. Police again searched Matthew's apartment on September 22nd. And during the search, they took items of clothing from his apartment, but would not elaborate on the importance of these items. Okay. Police described the searches as a major break in the case and offered a $100,000 reward, which is equivalent to $136,225.
Okay.
For info relating to Graham's disappearance. On September 21st, the police issued an arrest warrant for reckless driving by Matthew.
Okay.
On September 23rd, Longo announced that Matthew had been charged with abduction with intent to defile. On September 24th, Longo, during a joint press conference with the FBI, announced that the suspect had been arrested in a sparsely populated part of Galveston County, Texas, after being recognized by women on a beach.
They looked at his house twice, confiscated items, and he fled to Texas. Can you imagine where he would have ended up had they done this prior? He'd have been in fucking Mexico or somewhere that's a non-extradition state or country. Because that's what pussies do.
No, they arrested him on the 21st for reckless driving.
But they identified him in Texas, right? That's what you just
They
said.
probably just said that so that way. I don't know.
It sounds like he was in fucking Texas. He got arrested in Texas on the reckless driving.
Yeah, so they arrested him in Texas, but he didn't know that they were going for him though.
They had a warrant and searched his house twice before this. He knew they were after him. That's what I'm saying. Can you imagine how far he would have been able to get if they had gone ahead and arrested him? Because they wouldn't have been able to keep him arrested. They had no evidence. They had no probable cause. So they would have arrested him. He would have known they were onto him, and then he would have fled long before they were able to get the evidence. That's what I'm saying. That's why it was a good idea for them to wait. Because he fled to fucking Texas.
On September 29th, 2014, it was reported that forensic evidence taken from the investigation into the murder of... So there was a connection to a different case. So that's what I'm talking about now.
From him?
From him.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, from him.
Okay.
So on September 29th, 2014, it was reported that forensic evidence taken from the investigation into the murder of Morgan Dana Harrington in 2009 matched evidence taken from Matthew. Sources close to the Graham investigation added that Harrington interacted with Matthew on the night she disappeared.
Okay.
And then Graham's remains were found about 5 miles from the location where Harrington's remains were discovered.
Oh, no. Okay.
On September 15th, 2015, Matthew was formally charged with first-degree murder and abduction with intent to defile in the murder of Harrington.
Okay.
In a February 29th, 2016 letter to news media, prosecutors said Matthew would plead guilty. Matthew pleaded guilty and received 4 additional life terms.
Okay.
As of May 2025, he is serving his sentences at Red Onion State Prison.
Red Onion.
Mm-hmm. Matthew's first court appearance was scheduled for December 4th, 2014. Matthew's attorney stated that he would not ask the court for bail for his client. On February 10th, 2015, Albemarle County Commonwealth's attorney, Denise Lunsford, announced that Matthew was being indicted for first-degree murder of Graham, in addition to the abduction charges.
Okay.
On May 5th, 2015, prosecutors announced that Matthew would be charged with capital murder.
Yes.
The increased charge of capital murder meant that Matthew could have faced the death penalty if convicted. The trial date was set for July 5th, 2016.
Does it say why he was charged with capital murder?
No.
Okay.
On March 2nd, 2016, Matthew pleaded guilty.
As he should.
Later, Matthew received 4 additional life terms.
So 8 life terms total.
On October 20th, 2014, Matthew was indicted on charges of attempted murder, object sexual penetration, and abduction with intent to defile from an incident that occurred in September 2005 in Fairfax, Virginia.
A completely different person?
Mm.
This is 3 people now.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
On November 14th, 2014, Matthew pleaded not guilty to the charges, and a trial was set to begin on March 9th, 2015. On February 6th, 2015, the Fairfax trial was postponed with a new trial to be set on February 13th.
Okay.
On February 18th, Matthew appeared in court where Albemarle County Circuit Judge Cheryl Higgins scheduled his jury trial to begin on June 29th. However, the trial began on June 8th, and on June 10th, Matthew abruptly entered an Alford plea and was convicted on all charges. On October 2nd, 2015, Matthew was sentenced to 3 life terms in the Fairfax case. After Graham's remains were discovered and identified, students at UVA erected a memorial grounds on her honor.
I fucking hate Alfred pleas. I hate a fucking Alfred plea.
The World Bank also holds an annual award for innovations to reduce gender-based violence held in memory of Graham.
Oh, that's nice.
The Hannah E. Graham Memorial Scholarship was created in 2021 in honor of her participation in softball leagues around Northern Virginia.
That's so sad. She seemed, I mean, like, from what little we do know about her, she seemed like a good person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm not going to say, like, bad people deserve this, but it never seems to be the people who are bad who have this happen to them. And again, I'm not saying, like, bad people deserve it, because nobody deserves it. But it just seems like maybe because good people are, like, more trusting and they're more, like, willing to try to help somebody out or be friendly. Mm-hmm. I mean, and, like, I hear all the time from women, like, when men hit on them, they feel like they have to be polite so the man doesn't get mad. I don't give a fuck.
Let him get mad.
Let them get mad. But again,
I said no, motherfucker, don't fucking talk to me.
But again, women have to fear that because there are those men. I saw something on Facebook a couple months ago. Women, they were at a bar or a restaurant, but it was like during the day, like brunch or whatever.
Yeah.
And this man came over to hit on her and she was like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. He waited for her outside and beat her ass because she rejected him. Politely rejected him. Whipped her ass. Curb stomped her and everything. So I get why women are like, I don't want to upset him. Bitch, I carry. Try me. I am not scared of no man, and I am especially not scared of a man who is bigger than me. I might lose the fight, but you're not going to intimidate me. It's not going to happen. And I wish more women felt that way. I wish more women protected themselves, because what happens is you're too polite, you're too nice, you end up in a relationship, you end up with kids with a man who doesn't fucking respect you or your children. And hopefully anybody listening to this will eventually catch on that I'm talking to you. Okay? Whoever needs to hear it. Hear it loud, hear it proud, hear it good. You deserve better. Leave that man the fuck alone. He doesn't want you. Do better. Be better. I'm going to come off my high horse. I'm going to do that. You know, because I talk about this shit, but like, truthfully, I have never experienced it. So I don't really know how hard it is, you know, and I can sit here all day and say it can't be that hard.
Yeah.
I've never had to pull myself from that kind of situation where I was so fucking deep into it, because when I wanted to divorce my ex-husband, I fucking divorced him. Yeah. There was no back and forth. There was no pulling. There was no me trying to talk myself out of it. I said, get the fuck out of my house. I'm filing for divorce. Point blank period. Done and done. So I don't know. But I can be that unbiased person looking in to say, you know, this is not how a relationship is supposed to be. This is not healthy. There is somebody better out there for you, I promise. It's better to be alone or to be eaten by the bear than to be with a man who doesn't want you.
Yes.
And like in some of these relationships, I'm like, does he even like women? Like, just the way they talk to females. Yeah. Like, do they even like women? Like,
are you secretly gay?
And not even that. Like, you can be straight and not like women.
Yeah.
And it's a respect thing. They don't respect women, you know, and people...
And at that point, it's like, why would you want to get...
Exactly. Why are you in a relationship? Yeah. Why are you trying to maintain a relationship?
If you're not happy, like, fuck?
Get the fuck out of the relationship. It's just that simple. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to us rant about shit, because we get angry about shit like this because it might not be every man, but it's always a man. You guys can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/hauntedandhomicidal. The free tier will let you know when our pods drop. If you have any of your own suggestions, stories, or just want to say hey, or have like a brand deal you want to do, like 7
please, she's this
has been like 10 weeks of me saying something about it.
Please. Have you checked the email lately?
Yes, I check it all the time now. I learned from my mistake.
Yes.
But I caught it in time for us to have that sponsorship. So, hauntedandhomicidal@gmail.com, and then facebook.com/hauntedandhomicidals, where we're going to post pictures, you know, of our stories, of our victims, of our suspects, so on and so forth. If you guys kind of want to have a visual to the audio. Again, thank you guys for all of your love and support. We have surpassed 1,000 downloads.
Woo, woo, woo.
Which is exciting.
Woo, you didn't even tell me that, you bitch.
I just remembered.
Wow.
I just remembered. Anyway, thank you guys again for that. Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.